then I click OK. So right now, the Microsoft Excel is popping up, will generate another worksheet นะครับ for us in this one, my one called sheet 3 นะครับ this one you just like rename it first. Okay, I rename it as pivot table report นะครับ pivot table report worksheet pivot table report worksheet. So in this one นะครับ in this one when we just like want to do anything with the pivot table right now after you generate the pivot table already นะครับ what will happen right now you can see that in here on the right hand side it shows pivot table field item store cost and week. How can these four columns appear? The reason is because if you remember in the pivot data file we chose this one, right? And also the heading of this data นะครับ we just like choose them as well, so that's why it shows item store cost and week. That means when you would like to have the pivot table, the original data that you have must นะครับ it must exist the headers as well, otherwise pivot table นะครับ doesn't show anything like this นะครับ so when you have this already, the next one let me explain to you first. Apart from the fields that you have, what else do we have? We have filters, columns, rows, and value and sigma values นะครับ so filter means that how do you want to filter the data นะครับ columns means that what field นะครับ or what value you would like to display them in column. Rows means that what value you would like to display in the row oriented, and values means that what value would you like to show. For example, sometimes it might be product price per unit and quantity, then you may multiply them together. Or if you would like to find the average, or if you would like to find the max or min, you can just like choose the functions in this box as well. The way that we do with the pivot table is that if you want any column or any fields to be shown in column or rows นะครับ you just drag them into the blank box in here. So in this one นะครับ so in this one the first one นะครับ I say that okay I want to see the let's say store นะครับ I want to see the store นะครับ so I want to see store in column, hang on, no in rows. Okay, I drag store to row นะครับ you can see that in here when I drag store to row on the left hand side it shows different rows that are safe path and whole wallet นะครับ you can see that. After that I said that I want to know the revenue, the cost that I purchased from SafePath and whole wallet in different week. Then the week will be set in different column นะครับ then I choose week นะครับ and drag it to columns. Okay, you can see that it is 1 2 3 4, right? 1 2 3 4, that is week number นะครับ and after that นะครับ and after that you can see that in here it's still the blank value นะครับ it's still the blank value here นะครับ on the highlighted cell that I have. So in here I said that I want the cost to be displayed in here นะครับ I want the cost to be displayed in here. I drag cost to values นะครับ so you can see that once we drag cost to the values already, it has like the sum of cost here. That means it just like sum the values นะครับ that we purchase from SafePath and whole wallet in different week นะครับ they sum every value for us. So what does it mean? If I go to the original data, you can see that okay for the SafePath, let me just like talk about SafePath first. Sum of value means that in week 1 they sum this value together for you นะครับ you can see that okay if I just like sum this, let's see how much. Okay, I go to auto sum and then I sum this. Okay, you can see that in here it show 45 43. If you go to pivot table report, here is 45 43. You can see that instead of just like doing manually, you can do straight away in the pivot table นะครับ and also if you don't want the sum I mean in some of the pivot table you may multiply some values together. For example, if you have just product price per unit and you have quantity, you may multiply them together. In here, the way to choose นะครับ different functions than sum, you just go to click on the drop down list and then choose value field setting and then choose what you want to have นะครับ the function from this one นะครับ so if you don't want that value to be displayed in column or rows or value anymore, you just like click and then choose remove field นะครับ or you just drag it นะครับ and then return it back to its original state นะครับ then it will be just like clear out that box for you นะครับ then I bring it back once again. So right now you can see that we have the price, the total price นะครับ that we purchase from different shops นะครับ in different week นะครับ we can do like this. So when you decide to have the pivot table, you have to think first นะครับ you have to think first how do you gonna organize this data or this table to look like. For example, I told you that okay, I want the safe path and whole wallet, the name of the store นะครับ in different rows, and I want week in different columns นะครับ it will look like this. But if I just like didn't plan everything ahead นะครับ what will happen if I say that I have store in column in rows and item in column and cost in value, you can see that this one it is difficult to read นะครับ because I mean like you can see that right now we have just like not many products and it spans to many column already นะครับ let's say this one we have just 12 products only, but let's imagine that if we have like hundreds of products, it will be difficult for us นะครับ in order to see the data. So organizing the data in this way doesn't look nice. But okay, while if you're talking about like another situation, when you just like put item in the row and store in the column instead, this one looks better นะครับ this one looks better. And for somebody said, what about I want to say that I put what to say the week to the rows as well, what will it look like? You can see that in this one it's difficult to read as well. It said that in here, if you see, we buy cereal in week 1 from SafePath, week 2 from Whole Wallet. See that this is difficult to read. Normally we don't do this one นะครับ it is difficult to read. And what about like we apply the week with the store as well? This one นะครับ it might look a bit better นะครับ but you can see that in here SafePath นะครับ in week 1 and week 3 we purchase these products, and then it has SafePath total, means that it shows like how much do we purchase from SafePath นะครับ in here นะครับ for different products. It depends on like different set of data นะครับ that we have. And by the way, when we have pivot table on the rightmost column or on the lowest row, it always shows the total for us นะครับ for example in here the grand total that we have นะครับ in column H here, let's see the row number 6 cereal 14-ounce box นะครับ. In this one you can see that grand total 1473 come from 798 plus 675 นะครับ so you get 14.73. it just like have the grand total from SafePath plus Whole Wallet นะครับ for that product. Okay, so this is the way that we use pivot table นะครับ. Okay, I remove week out because it make us confused นะครับ next นะครับ you can see that when we have pivot table, it is possible that we may click on somewhere else นะครับ from the table, and that kind of like the list of the field on the right hand side is disappeared. How do we gonna bring it back นะครับ because in this one if we just like see like this we can't control the pivot table นะครับ then you just have to click on any cells นะครับ in this pivot table. This one I click already. Then it just like come back for the pivot table fields นะครับ then you can just like do anything with the pivot table field. But what if you accidentally close the pivot table field here นะครับ you can see that right now even we go back to these cells the pivot table field doesn't show up. What are we going to do นะครับ in order to bring that pivot table fields back so that we can control it? Firstly, you click on any cells in this pivot table and then you go to analyze, menu. Once you go to analyze menu นะครับ once you go to analyze menu you click field list, click on field list, then it just come back to you once again นะครับ so that you can control it นะครับ okay so in this one นะครับ oh I forget to talk about filters. You can also have the filtering features in pivot table as well. Assume that I choose week as a filter. What will happen? In this one you can choose which week that you would like to see as well นะครับ in this one if we say that I want to choose just week 2 นะครับ, so this one it just show the data for you and any data that is not exist is that does not exist นะครับ in that week it will be hidden in the pivot table too. For example in week 2 we purchase from whole wallet only นะครับ so that's why it doesn't show นะครับ it doesn't show the data from another shop that is SafePath นะครับ on the other way around if you choose week 1 let's say it shows just SafePath, it doesn't show whole wallet. The reason is because we didn't purchase from whole wallet in week number 1 นะครับ this is the way that we use filtering นะครับ it will help filter the data in your pivot table นะครับ okay so in this one before I move on to the next thing in pivot table do you have any questions to ask? Okay if you don't have any questions นะครับ before I move on to the next one everyone please save your file first because the next thing that I'll just teach you it might be possible that some of your Excel might be freezing or restarting นะครับ it's a bug or some errors in Excel นะครับ then save your file first otherwise you will lose this data นะครับ okay so let me remove the filter out first. Hang on, I don't need to remove. I choose all of the data. I choose all. Okay, yeah. So the next one that we will talk about is what we call data visualization นะครับ This is the introduction to data visualization that you have to know นะครับ For the first part นะครับ before we have the midterm exam the data visualization will be done through Microsoft Excel นะครับ only นะครับ but after the midterm examination we will focus on data visualization by using another tool instead นะครับ now we talk about data visualization in Microsoft Excel first. In Microsoft Excel it prepares many data visualization tools for us. What does it mean by data visualization? Data visualization if we are talking about visual นะครับ visual is to see นะครับ it's about like seeing now to see the data what does it mean data visualization นะครับ data visualization is the tools in Microsoft Excel that help us in order to view the data นะครับ in order to view the data in terms of pictures or not pictures graphical ways instead of numbers. What's wrong with the number? Number is not wrong ครับ but the problem is that if you have like hundreds or thousands of records it might be like useless for you in the meeting room, because in the meeting room in here, suppose you see the data like this. Hang on, let me just show all the data first. If we ask you that, okay, can you tell me how much did I purchase from SafePath? It will be very difficult because you have to just like operate or run or just like submit, and it wastes the time in the meeting room. In the meeting room, just one glance on the screen, you should see the data and tell anything about the data already. So that's why we just like rarely use like the raw data like this in the meeting room, but we use data visualization to show that data in graphical ways instead. Okay, so that's why we just like, or we have one click or one tap to see that data quickly. So that's why we have to understand the data visualization tools. In this class, I will talk about couple of tools that will be used together. We will call that techniques or the data visualization tools in terms of pivot charts and slicers. I will use these two tools together. Okay, now I go back to pivot table report first. Everyone save your file first because as I told you, it might be freezing or restarting. If you don't save, you lost this file, and then when I go to the next tool, you cannot just like catch up easily. Now let's talk about pivot chart first. Pivot chart is the extension part from pivot table that we have. It uses the data from pivot table to prepare a chart for you. So let's see the pivot chart example first from the data that we have in this pivot table. Okay, so firstly, you just click on any cells in this pivot table. From this one, we will go to create the pivot chart. So in here, you go to insert. You click on insert menu. And after that, in the chart group, you see a button called pivot chart. Click on the drop down list from pivot chart and then choose pivot chart. So this one, pivot chart will automatically choose the data from your pivot table because I told you to click on any cell in the pivot table before to create a chart. After that, you just choose the chart that you would like to see. For example, if I say that I want this kind of chart, the cluster column chart in here. And I think that it's okay for me. I click OK. Bear in mind that when you create anything about pivot chart or slicer or data visualization tools that are related to pivot table, you have to always save that file. Now I save it again. Now this is what we call pivot chart. It's the chart about your pivot table. It shows different products. From it shows the total cost that you purchase from different products in different shops. The shop or the store show us for the different colors orange or blue. And apart from that one, because our pivot table, we also have used the filter by week. That's why it shows week in your pivot chart as well. It shows week in the pivot chart as well. This one, you can just like click and choose. So what is the good things in this pivot chart? In the meeting room, if you show this chart in the meeting room, you can just click to choose week and then the audience in your meeting room will see immediately นะครับ for different kind of values นะครับ that should be displayed and you see the movements as well นะครับ you see the movement as well when you just like choose like different weeks and you can also choose store as well นะครับ something like that okay so for the pivot chart what else that we can use as the visualization tools you can see that in here let's imagine that if you are in the meeting room it is difficult to just like control the mouse like this because the button weak is like very tiny then we have the tool that is what we call slicer to help us นะครับ for controlling the chart for us นะครับ for controlling the chart for us so for the slicer here นะครับ what is it slicer is a tool that we use to slice the data นะครับ into chunks and then it will be easily be displayed on the chart นะครับ and we can also easily choose it นะครับ while we are displaying this kind of chart when you are using your PC นะครับ or your Mac นะครับ for your own use it is not difficult to control นะครับ even though you don't have the slicer but I mean in the meeting room believe me it will be useful for you because it can be easily controlled especially for anyone who display your chart by using the iPad the easiest thing that you do is that you just tap on the screen easily นะครับ when you are in the meeting room you put your iPad on the table and you just tap it it can be easily seen นะครับ then just like find out where the weak button located and then tap and you can see that because the size of the button is quite small now let's talk about slicer where is it in order to have the slicer นะครับ in order to have the slicer we just move the mouse pointer to be on our pivot table first any cells in the pivot table นะครับ just click on the pivot table so the pivot table field list will be displayed okay now we go to I save it again we go to insert menu นะครับ we go to insert menu you can see that on the right hand side นะครับ of the pivot chart you will see slicer นะครับ you will see slicer it's here just won't be long the slicer is here นะครับ you click on slicer นะครับ now the slicer will ask you that what slice would you like to do you can slice by item by store by cost or by week in this case let me just like add two slicers here first I want to slice the data by store next I also want to slice the data by week นะครับ and then I click OK once I click OK it will pop up two slicer for us นะครับ not click inside yet นะครับ just wait for me okay I put them in different part of the screen because now the screen is almost full then I save my file once again okay next นะครับ when we have two slicer already let's see the meaning or the description of the slicer first on the top left corner of the slicer it shows the slicer by the column that you have here it's sliced by week 1 2 3 4 inside it shows button นะครับ these buttons นะครับ these buttons show us for like all possible values นะครับ of that columns we have week 1 to week 4 while on the store slicer we have two possible values safe path and whole wallet so why do I choose like this kind of slicer let's see นะครับ if I choose the slicer by if I choose a slicer by product it will be useless in this sense I choose slicer hang on I have to click on the pivot table first before I choose slicer นะครับ then I choose slicer and then I choose item you can see that this one is almost useless because we have so many products in hereนะครับ and it's difficult to choose นะครับ so that's why this one you may have to think first what kind of thing would you like to slice นะครับ okay so in here I want to slice by week or by store นะครับ let's see after I save this file all the values right now they are in blue color what do they mean blue color means here we have like selected all weeks and we selected all store in here suppose I would like to choose store นะครับ I want to choose just store I want to see just save path what will happen and how can I do the things that I have to do is that I click on save path you can see that right now the chart is changed already if I go to whole wallet the chart is changed and the value inside my pivot table is changed as well นะครับ and also if I just choose week 1 save path it shows us like this right now let's see on week นะครับ on week slicer you can see that it shows 1 3 2 4 why don't it shows as 1 2 3 4 the reason is because the other slicer save path we had the transaction when we purchased a product in week 1 and week 3 only there's no data in week 2 and week 4 so that means if you choose 2 and 4 there's nothing in the chart because we never purchase anything from save path during week 2 and 4 นะครับ so but if you just like go to week 1 and 3 they have the data now what if we would like to reset the slicers to show everything you can see that right now on each slicer it has a funnel shape here นะครับ that is showing funnel and X means that you can clear the filter if you click X it means clear the filter นะครับ clear the filter so everything will be shown in here properly นะครับ so when you put pivot chart นะครับ and slices together this technique in data visualization we call it as dashboard dashboard is like your car นะครับ you can see that right now the modern model of cars นะครับ see you the dashboard the picture of dashboard clearly because it shows all related things that the drivers need to know นะครับ including speed นะครับ including the mileage including just like the temperature of your engine the status of your engine and so on everything can be controlled on one screen นะครับ same as this one you can control all the data related to this pivot table นะครับ in terms of pivot chart in terms of the slicers in here นะครับ by using this kind of thing นะครับ so I can tell you that in the midterm exam นะครับ you have to create a dashboard as well so don't be confused นะครับ if you are asked to create a dashboard that means you have to use the pivot chart and slicers together to create dashboard นะครับ and also sometimes people we may just like apart from this นะครับ this is the chart for products นะครับ and shops or store that we purchase the product from you may create different charts in the same worksheet as well นะครับ and then control by different slicer like this it's a part of the dashboard as well so let me just like insert another pivot chart นะครับ I just like show the pivot chart in term of pie okay here you can see that in here now the dashboard is more complete because I also have the slicer with 2 charts นะครับ okay after that if I add another chart hang on I insert the chart, the pivot chart, one more chart. I want to show them in the area chart as well. Okay. So now let's see what happened when I control these charts. When I control these charts by slicer. I save it first. When I control it by slicer, you can see that in here. All charts will be moved according to the slicer that I choose. That's why we call this one as dashboard, because you have like different values that is like moving in different chart and also in the pivot table as well. So that's why we call this kind of thing as a dashboard. Okay, right. So this is pivot table, pivot chart, and slicers that we bring them together to create a dashboard. Up to this point, do you have any questions for this example? I want you to practice just like use this data set to create pivot table, pivot chart, and then just like play with the pivot chart and slicers because like if you can just like do it quickly another thing that you also have to do is that you have to also analyze that whether your chart and slicer it just like makes sense or not, because it will be useful when you choose different type of chart properly and also different fields for the slicers properly, because you can see that if I have the pivot chart and slicer like this, it looks okay. But if you choose a slicer differently, so in here I choose I pick a cell in pivot table, click insert, and then I go to slicer. Now I choose cost and click OK. You can see that the cost slicer here, it's almost useless. You can see that it's so variety, too many lines in the cost. Actually, you have to just like you have to know that in here you have to know that in here the slicer should be able to be controlled in just like one page, but this one is so much you have to just scroll. That means in this one it will be very difficult in here. So that's why you have to know about this kind of thing. Okay, right. So if you don't want that slicer, what will you do? You just like go to that slicer right click and then choose remove that slicer out it will be removed. Okay, then I leave this dashboard to be like this so that you can play with it. For anyone who cannot just like catch up for the dashboard and the pivot table, pivot chart, and slicers I'll just like try to edit the videos for lecture for this lecture as soon as I can. It might be just like tomorrow so you will see it on the link on e-learning and I will also just upload this current file, my first book as well, so that it will be easy for you to just like catch up later for this one. Okay, so when you learn for the pivot table and its features in data visualization already just like talk about like some other functions a bit before we finish the class today So the next function that we will talk about is sum if sum if s and then sum product Okay, so right now if you are inside the e-learning already, please refresh the screen please refresh the screen so that you will see another file that I activate for you. This file is called sum if s this file is called as sum if s. You just download that file and copy it to your my first book Okay. Okay, so let me just open up that file นะครับ okay this is the file that we have for some if s นะครับ and some product I'll copy this file this worksheet นะครับ some if s นะครับ to my first book then I right click on the tab some if s นะครับ and then create a copy choose my first book นะครับ and then click OK so I have this file this worksheet already some if s นะครับ in the past I use it for filtering as well but right now I just like show you the filtering features already นะครับ now let's see for this one นะครับ you can see that this one looks similar to like the safe path and whole wallet things นะครับ because this one is a transaction นะครับ this is transaction why do I just like show you the data like this because in reality นะครับ when you work with any company นะครับ they will have most of the company around the world they have a system นะครับ that is called as POS especially for the company that is retail business นะครับ POS system POS system stand for point of sales system it's a system to record all of the sales transactions in your company นะครับ for example in 7-Eleven if you go there you see that the POS system is located in the cashier station so that means when you would like to buy anything นะครับ you just put in the basket and then just like put give it to the cashier will scan and tell you the price and when you pay the money to them they give you the change and print you the receipt the machine นะครับ or cash registration machine inside there is a POS system it knows the price of the product it records the price for each sale that you purchase also it records the amount of money that you give to the cashier and the amount that cashier give the change to you นะครับ that is the POS system inside นะครับ when the transactions happen when the sales transaction happen it records the data like this นะครับ it records the data like this so at the end of the day we may download this file นะครับ and use it for other purposes นะครับ for a small supermarket or the retail business where you have just like one or two different POS system or POS machine but for the large company นะครับ they may want to analyze the sales they may want to just like order the products from supplier this kind of sales transaction will be uploaded automatically or will be synced automatically to their database server นะครับ in the headquarters and at the end of the day it may analyze นะครับ for this sales transaction they may know that okay what item is a top sale they may know that okay which product that is like almost out of stock นะครับ something like that now let's see for this POS system what data is generated from this POS in this one it tell us นะครับ it tell us that okay when นะครับ when was this transaction occur นะครับ so it's appear in the date column นะครับ who is our customer who is the sales representative what product that we sold to the customer นะครับ how much นะครับ how much is the price how much is the quantity sorry how many items นะครับ not how much how many items that the customer purchased from us how much did they pay to us how did they pay by cash or by credit card นะครับ this is the details from this POS system นะครับ okay so right now นะครับ for this one the point that I just want to show you is that okay in this one นะครับ I will use the amount paid นะครับ I want to know that how much did Suzanne purchase from us? How much did Suzanne purchase from us? You can see that in here because Suzanne transactions are not connected to each other นะครับ it's scattered around. Okay, let me highlight for what Suzanne purchased from us first นะครับ okay okay so in here นะครับ you can see that you may have to add 380 with 998 with 160 what with 160 and then you get how much did Suzanne purchase from us. Somebody made it easier. They filter นะครับ they may filter the data first okay and see Susan and after that they just sum them up นะครับ this might be the way that somebody do นะครับ in hereนะครับ this is how much Susan purchased from us but we have easier way sometimes we don't want to filter นะครับ and do like this because it wastes a lot of time we will use the function that we call as SUMIF นะครับ we have the function that we call SUMIF to help SUMIF is the function นะครับ in Microsoft Excel SUMIF is a function in Microsoft Excel that help us นะครับ that help us in order to sum นะครับ the data according to its condition นะครับ so that's why we call it as SUMIF นะครับ for example we want to sum the amount paid นะครับ if the seller is Susan นะครับ if the seller is Susan นะครับ so the seller is Susan is the condition นะครับ that we put into the if นะครับ something like that another function that we would like to know that we need to know is what we call SUMIFs นะครับ so let me just like explain the concept a bit first and then next time I'll talk about this function in details นะครับ you can see that SUMIFs นะครับ is a SUMIF but we have a letter s behind what does it mean SUMIFs is a function to sum นะครับ according to the condition as well but when we have s that means we have more than one condition for example you want to sum the amount paid นะครับ when the seller is Susan for the transaction that she sold book she sold food นะครับ so that means you cannot just use Susan as the condition นะครับ it's not enough we want to just like sum only when Susan sell food นะครับ if Susan sell other things we don't sum it something like that so in this case นะครับ for SUMIF you can sum for everything that Susan sell นะครับ but for SUMIFs now you can add another criteria if we say that okay we would like to sum just only the transaction that Susan sell food you can see that in here Susan she sold food okay in here right it's the same as when you do the filtering นะครับ when you do data filtering firstly you filter Susan and after that in goods you filter food only so that means you want to sum this one 160 with 160 and then you get 320 something like that นะครับ this is SUMIFs so both of the functions used whenever you have different number of conditions นะครับ that takes into account okay so in details of SUMIF and SUMIFs I will talk about on the next class นะครับ I'll talk about it on the next class up to this point do you have any questions okay so if you don't have any questions นะครับ I will upload my first book file to you นะครับ and I will also upload the video นะครับ the video might be a bit slow because I have to just like render it first before I upload to YouTube นะครับ so it takes some time okay and let me just like remind you once again our midterm examination will be on Sunday the 21st นะครับ during 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. It's on Sunday นะครับ and also it will be on the it will be online examination so that means you have to do it from home นะครับ because on campus the computer lab will be closed on that day because firstly it is Sunday Sunday evening second one for MUIC นะครับ this term all the examination must be the online exam so that's why you have to do it from home นะครับ okay so if you don't have any questions นะครับ everyone would you please turn on your camera ครับ okay just won't be long นะครับ okay Saruda ครับ I see just the yellow screen นะครับ Saruda please check